This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
His new album's called Bloor Street. It's and he's on tour now. Tour dates and all the info, KieferSutherland.net. He has films coming out, too, which we're going to get to. We're in the Lotto.com studio with Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer, I've been to Toronto several times over the years, but I cannot remember definitely like turning onto a street that was called Bloor Street, but I know it's a major thoroughfare. Equate it to something like in New York City or LA or Chicago.
It's actually, in New York City you've got main streets,
Broadway, whatever.
Broadway.
Yeah.
This is the main one. Bloor Street is the main street in Toronto that goes east-west, and it intersects with Yonge Street, which goes north-south.
Yonge Street, I've heard of.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was shooting a television show there called Designated Survivor.
One of my favorites, definitely.
Thank you very much. And I'd been there for 3 years, and that's the longest time I think I'd been back home since I was maybe 15 years old. And I was coming up to the intersection of Bloor and Yonge, and it dawned on me that all of my firsts took place on these four corners. First job I ever had was in the food court at the Hudson Bay.
Nice.
Northeast corner. First time I ever busked with a guitar was on the northwest corner of Bloor and Yonge. First time I ever meaningfully kissed a girl was in front of the Bloor Street subway station. First time I ever got my butt kicked was on the southwest corner.
Okay, let me ask. First
Bloor
concert was the first concert in the neighborhood as well?
Yeah, it was Maple Leaf Gardens. I would get out at Bloor and Yonge, and I would walk the next 4 or 5 blocks down to Maple Leaf Gardens, where I did see my first few shows.
Who was your first concert?
My first concert was Styx.
Okay.
And I remember thinking Tommy Shaw was so cool because he was only 18 years old, and I might have been about 12.
Right. Yeah.
And I was playing guitar then, so I the fact that an 18-year-old could be in a band that was selling out Maple Leaf Gardens was very encouraging.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
But getting back to Bloor Street, I mean, a designated survivor. You're there for 3 years shooting this show.
Yeah, and I just I'm at the stage of life where you start to get nostalgic about certain things, and I also realized how lucky I was to grow up in Toronto. When I was a kid, I was 11 years old. My best friend Stephen Barker, he and I would hop on the subway from the east end of Toronto, and we'd ride downtown. If I saw a kid on a subway at 11 years old now, I would think something was terribly wrong.
Right, where's the mother?
Yeah,
exactly.
And so it was a combination of what an amazing place to grow up in. Toronto was, and also what an amazing time. It was like 1977, and the rules were very different. Get out of the house by 9 o'clock, and as long as you make it home by 7 for dinner, no questions asked. And yeah, I loved it.
An idyllic childhood. I don't know if those are, you know what I mean? Where all the neighbors' kids hang out with the neighbors' kids, and the parents take care of the kids if the other parents are working. That kind of thing. But I read somewhere that time you actually sort of constructed some songs maybe for this album or the ideas of this songs on this album.
I did a couple. So Bloor Street obviously is one of them. Going Down was another. But most of the songs were actually written during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Which was a really kind of interesting kind of moment for me, and obviously for everybody. I mean, it was an incredibly difficult time. But I was kind of overcome with I became very grateful for everything that I've been allowed to do in my career, for, the fact that my family and my friends were safe and healthy. And I just, it's not that I wasn't aware of it before, but I became acutely aware of how lucky I am and how fortunate I've been. And so a lot of the songs that I wrote in that time period were much more positive than songs I would have written before. In fact, if you had told me that I was going to write a song like So Full of Love 4 years ago, I'd have stabbed you in the heart with a pencil. And I'll never forget, like, that song was the one that always kind of makes me smile, because I woke up humming the melody. And by the time I was in the shower, I had the chorus, and it was, I'm so full of love I can't hold it down, floating like a butterfly off the ground. And I'm dancing in the shower, and I'm like, who the is this guy?
Right, yeah.
And by the
But
time,
those are the moments you live for when you get that you're like a channeler. You get a lightning bolt coming down from the heavens,
but it was just such a happy vibe. I just didn't know how to handle it at first. And by the time I finished Breakfast, I was like, I kind of like this guy. So a lot of songs on the record, So Full of Love, Two Stepping in Time, which I think we're going to play for you in a bit.
Yeah.
Lean Into Me. These are songs that had it not been for the pandemic, I don't think I would have written. And they were really just pure expressions of gratitude and gratefulness.
Yeah, because normally if there wasn't a pandemic, you'd be, jumping on a plane, you'd be going somewhere, shooting something, being on tour, whatever.
Moving a million miles a minute. This 2-year period is the longest time I've been home since I was a kid.
Right, yeah. You worked on this album in L.A. with a really successful producer, mixer, engineer, Chris Lord Algae, whose name is printed on the back of many of mine and our listeners' favorite albums. I've seen that name forever. Now, if I was working with him, first of all, the first day would be like, just tell me some stories, man. I mean,
Well, I've known Chris for a very long time, and his name is on all 3 of the records that I've made, but only as a producer on this last one. It was difficult kind of navigating making a record during the pandemic, especially in the early days. And so we had just come off of tour, and so we'd basically been self-isolating on a bus anyways. Made the record with my band, really only started to go in to do demos, and the demos became the songs and the tracks. And Chris just, he is a wizard behind the console, and he just knows how to make things just sound as perfect as they can possibly sound. And then it was great to have him as fresh kind of ears, because we were playing the songs how we just liked playing them. And he gave it some shape and some color. But it was literally reaching out to friends and just making agreements that we would all kind of self-isolate and stay, be as responsible as we could be. And so we ended up recording like 14 or 15 songs for the album because we didn't want it to end, because we knew the second it ended, we weren't going to see anybody for a while.
Right, yeah.
But there's only 11 tracks on the record, but it was an amazing experience. And then we've just been waiting for almost 2 years now to go out and play these songs. And so the tour has been a really, really welcome thing for us.
I know how fond you are of playing all these different places here in America and around the world, because it gives you such a really incredible perspective on, outside of the U.S. in particular, I would think.
Well, it's just, everything that I've done as an actor, and by the way, being an actor and working as an actor is the great love of my life. I'm never not going to do that. I'm so grateful that I can do that. But there's always going to be a character that separates me from an audience. And that's the fun part, right? Creating that character. When you write a song and you play that song for an audience and you kind of explain, this is what I was going through when I wrote this song, and maybe you've had a similar experience, there's the possibility of making a connection with someone that is just so intimate and personal and real between you and that person. For instance, I wrote a song called Saskatchewan about the passing of my mother. And I was playing this song, and I saw a woman in the audience put her arm around her friend and hold her and kind of rock her back and forth. And I realized clearly this woman has gone through a very similar thing at this time. And I looked at her and I just smiled in between the verses, and she blew me a kiss. And for that brief moment, the grief of me losing my mother was alleviated a little bit because it was shared with this person, and I hope for her as well. And so that kind of experience there's really nothing else I can compare it to. And it's the one thing, it's probably the reason I keep making records, so I can finally change the songs that we have for the set list.
Yeah.
But the touring is really the thing that I've fallen in love with the most.
There's a video of you done for the song on the album called Chasing the Rain. Lots of footage of life on the road. with the guys in this band.
Yeah.
And it looks like a really fun time. I mean, I don't know where and when you shot that footage, probably from the last tour, I'm thinking.
It's Chasing the Rain was, I wanted to write a tour song for a long time, and I've had a couple runs at it, and they didn't work. And we were doing a tour in Europe, started in Switzerland, went as far east as the Czech Republic, and then all the way back to the UK. And every place we played, it rained.
Oh, man. Well, what time of year was it?
Well,
was it summer?
No, it was January and February.
Okay, yeah.
But we didn't get a break for like 6 or 7 weeks. And we got back to England, and we were going up towards Scotland, and it was just, the rain just kept getting worse and worse. And I finally looked at the tour manager and said, "Oh man, it's just chasing the rain here." And I was like, that sounds pretty good. And,
ding, ding.
Yeah. And, but I think the video certainly reflects how much fun we have. And it maybe looks like we have too much fun, but we take it really seriously. The shows really are important to us, but we do have fun on the road.
Well, I saw your last show at Irving Plaza, I guess a couple years ago, 2019 maybe, was really great. And I will admit, I was really kind of blown away about how good you guys are live. And your band is fantastic. Do you get those kinds of reactions from, say, your peers in film and television, where they've actually listened to your stuff and they've maybe seen a live show and they're like, wow, you really are actually very good at this?
Oh, well, that's, first of all, thank you. That's really very generous. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Certainly I made 2 albums, made 1 album and was touring another album when I was doing Designated Survivor. So those people were, they were aware of it because I just had a guitar in my hand all the time.
Right, yeah.
I don't really intermix the two things together. I mean, when I'm on a set and I'm working on a show like Designated Survivor, I am 100% focused on Tom Kirkman and that character and doing that. And then when I'm on the road, I'm not thinking about anything other than the show that we've got that night. The one thing that was really interesting for me when we were doing Designated Survivor is because we were in Toronto, we had access to the Midwest. So I'd shoot for 4 days, and then we'd go play Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison for 3 shows and come back. And so by the time we finished the year, not only had we done Designated Survivor, which is a job in itself,
right?
We'd done 125 shows over the years. So it was wonderful to kind of realize, oh my gosh, you can actually do both things, and you just have to make the time for it. And some people like to go to the beach and get a drink with an umbrella. I would rather get on a bus with 5 friends and a bottle of whiskey and go to town.
Kiefer Sutherland with us, the new album Bloor Street. He's on tour now. All the info, KieferSutherland.net. You have brought a comrade with you from the band. What is his name? And I think you're going to play a live song for us.
Yeah, Mark Copley is going to join me on this song. And Mark is honestly one of the most beautiful guitar players I've ever seen and heard. And when I say that, I'm not saying he's a good-looking guy, but that's not why I'm saying it. When you watch him play, there's some guitar players where the guitar is just an extension of their body, and he makes it look effortless. And then I try to do some of the stuff he does, and it's like, oh my God, what a disaster. So it's one of the most beautiful players I've heard, and just inspiring. We've written a few songs together, and yeah, I don't know what I don't want to swear, but he plays the off of this song.
Excellent. So what song are you going to play?
We're going to do a song called Two Stepping in Time, which is getting some traction around the country.
Yes.
And we're really thrilled about it. And we're going to do a very different version. We're going to do the version of Two Stepping in Time, kind of how I wrote it, and how I had it in my mind before the band and Lord Algae got a hold of it. This is Two Stepping in Time. Cigarettes in the ashtrays, all in a line. Empty glasses of whiskey show the passage of time. Dancing round the kitchen island with no one left to stare. I feel you move around me like we're a perfect pair. You stepping in time. Follow me and you'll find love could last us forever. Just show me a sign. You stepping in time with your heart in mine. I get lost in this moment when I see a tear in your eye. The fire sparks in the distance, embers dance in the sky, and I will love you forever until the day that I die. You stepping in time with your heart in mine. I get lost in this moment when I see a tear in your eye. Now the dawn is upon us as the night fades away. Put your hand in mine, darling, and I'll show you the way. Two stepping in time. Follow me and you'll find love could last us forever. Just show me a sign. Two stepping in time with your heart in mine. I get lost in this moment when I see a tear in your eye. Cigarettes in the ashtray, all in a line. Empty glasses of whiskey show the passage of time.
Kiefer Sutherland playing live here on Q104.3's Out of the Box. That's a waltz.
Yeah.
That is a waltz.
Well, it's as close a waltz as it can get to a waltz in 4/4 time. But it's when I wrote it, I wanted to write a waltz. A friend of mine suggested it, and I started it in 6/8, and the lyric wasn't fitting as well. And,
right. Yeah.
But I wanted it to have all the feeling of a waltz, and then by the time Lord Algae was finished with it, it was a rock song.
Shocking.
Yeah. So that's how it goes.
Well, Mark, that was beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Really nice work on that, man.
Beautiful playing, brother.
Kiefer's new album is Bloor Street. He's on tour now. All the tour dates and info, KieferSutherland.net. Talk about the First Lady. This is going to be on Showtime next month. Tell us about the First Lady.
First of all, I was so thrilled to get the call to do it. But it's a 10-part limited series that chronicles the lives of 3 first ladies that changed the office of the First Lady, and also takes a look at the profound impact that they had on their presidential husbands. So you had Viola Davis playing Michelle Obama, you had Michelle Pfeiffer playing Betty Ford, and Gillian Anderson playing Eleanor Roosevelt, and I played Franklin Roosevelt to her Eleanor.
Wow, that's kind of a daunting character to play, man.
Yes, yeah, it was. It's it's the first time I've been asked to play a character that was a real person, and so with that comes a huge responsibility. And I approached the character, because he was so distinctive. He had such a distinctive dialect and voice. He had such a distinctive physicality because of polio. And he had, obviously, a very distinctive look. And so I went after the voice first. And once I really started to feel...
Do you listen to old speeches and things like that? And
absolutely.
The whole thing?
Absolutely. A lot of the, December 7th, 1941 is a day that will live in infamy. The Empire of Japan, unprovoked, attacked the United States of America. And once you start to get a handle on the voice, then all of a sudden everything else starts to fit. But it took a minute. So, I do remember on the phone going, oh, my God, yes, I'll do it. And I got off the phone and I'm saying, oh, my God, I'm so excited. And then literally within 5 seconds, I went, oh, my God, I'm so scared.
What did I do?
Yeah. And so you just, and I think I was, as you get older, you kind of, it's like that story, about the two bulls, the young bull wants to run down and get one of those cows, and the old bull says, why don't we just walk down and get them all?
Yeah.
I finally learned to, to just take it in pieces and kind of do the voice first, then do the physicality. And then I worked with a great makeup crew to kind of get the look the way I wanted. And I'm very excited about the film. And all three women are extraordinary in it. And I think it's an incredibly interesting perspective.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I'm just thrilled to have been a part of it.
The First Lady, that'll be on Showtime in April. And then also The Contractor. That's a film also coming out next month.
Yeah.
Tell us about The Contractor.
The Contractor is a film that I did with Chris Pine and Ben Foster. They've teamed up again. And they did a film with Jeff Bridges called Hell or High Water, which is one of my
I remember that. Yeah.
favorite movies of the decade. So I was thrilled to go work with them. And it deals with, people from the military, and in this case, in the context of this film, special forces people that when the Army's done with them, they kind of discarded to the side of the road like kicking a can. And it's where they end up going with their skill set. And obviously some people go to, groups like Blackwater, et cetera. These guys go and do operations and for big companies and just how complicated that can become. And the film is about that. I think I've pitched it really poorly, but it's a really good film. It's a great action film, and those guys are phenomenal in it.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to look for The First Lady on Showtime next month, and also a film, The Contractor, coming out in April. Kiefer Sutherland, the new album, Bloor Street, all the tour dates and all the info, KieferSutherland.net. Congrats on the making of another great album, man.
Thank you so much, man. Thank
congratulations
you
for getting back out on tour. I mean, it's fantastic. So
Mark and I both are thrilled to just be able to go, from town to town, and the audiences have been fantastic. And what's really interesting, I said, I think the very first show that we had back after 2 years, I said, I got enough pent-up energy right now that I could kickstart a 747, so bear with me. And the audience, I realized they're going through the same thing. Like
totally.
So I felt bad that we weren't kind of doing a punk show and, had a mosh pit, because I think that's what everybody feels like.
Oh, big time, yeah.
But they were, the audiences that we played to so far have been so gracious and just seem to be as excited to be out as we are. So
everyone go out and get the new album from Kiefer Sutherland, Bloor Street, all the info, KieferSutherland.net, tour dates, etc. Kiefer, Mark, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.